Either way,
Early 56 wives.
Brigham Young had 56. There's a photo of
This is 16 he forgot about.
See, I didn't want.
Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Well, this is the reality of historical figures. You're talking about a different time in the world, and it was a particularly barbaric time. And if you wanted to survive, this is what you had to do. And we're not talking about the United States in 2025. We're talking about the Wild West, and you're talking about a persecuted group of religious people. Like, if you want to survive, you want your children to survive. Like,
You gotta fight.
You got to take up arms. That's just how it is. Like, you know the story about the Mormons in Mexico, right?
Remind me.
Well, there's Mormon sects in Mexico that moved there when they made polygamy illegal.
Yeah.
And this was a homeboy from Massachusetts, Mitt Romney. His family is from Mexico. His father was born in Mexico. And his father could never be president because he wasn't born in America. And he was born here in America, ran for president, the whole deal, became governor of Massachusetts. But there's still these huge groups in Mexico that are armed to the fucking tits because they're always constantly battling with the cartel. And there was a series of murders a few years back where a woman and children, like family, were slaughtered. And it was some confusion as to whether or not the cartel targeted them or whether it was a case of mistaken identity or what happened. But, you know, there's been documentaries about them. They live in armed compounds.
The Mormons.
In Mexico.
Yeah. Well, that
so
would
it's a
be...
similar sort of a situation with them in Mexico now.
The polygamy was a thing, and you know we do touch upon that a bit in Primeval. I think Brigham Young had 40-odd wives.
Nice.
And that.
How do you fucking keep up with two?
I don't know.
I don't really understand how someone could have two wives.
That's a whole nother conversation. I mean, I have a friend who lives in Saudi Arabia, and a long time ago I was in Saudi Arabia doing some work, and I'd asked him, because in Saudi you can have multiple wives, Saudi men, and I'd asked him about that, and sort of like, wow, that's amazing, multiple wives, that's so cool. And we were leaving Riyadh Airport, and he was walking with me, and there was a man in front of us, and he was holding like 5 suitcases, and he could barely walk, and there were 4 women around him and kids everywhere, and he just looked like he was about to collapse and fall face forward on the ground at the airport in Riyadh. And my friend looked at me and said, "Pete, this is the reality of what having 5 wives looks like on the ground if you want to see what it really feels like." So to think about Brigham Young having, 45 wives, okay, good luck, I guess. Right? But that was one of the issues, the polygamy that people that were non-Mormons back in 1850s were using to attack the religion. And, that was something that was, the polygamy has obviously been since outlawed, and the church has cut itself off from that policy. But, the Mormons were, the whole idea that this kid, Joseph Smith, I believe he was a young teenager, 14,
yeah,
when he and his buddy walked into these woods in late 1830s, right? Like,
it was 1820.
Okay.
When did Joseph Smith supposedly find these golden tablets? I believe it was, but either way, early
56 wives.
Brigham Young had 56. There's a photo of
this is 16 he forgot about.
See, I didn't want to oversell it, so I undersold it. I kind of knew it was in the 50s. He had 56 wives.
That's 46 kids. Only 46 kids made it to adulthood. So that's part of why.
Oh wow, only 46. He's basically Genghis Khan of Utah.
But
1823, he was visited by an angel who directed him to a buried book.
1823?
Yeah.
And how old was he? Like
14.
14. So,
yeah.
So this kid at 14 comes out of the woods and says, the angel came and told me that the Bible's almost right, but it's not quite right. So I'm going to rewrite it, which he did, the Book of Mormon. And look at where we are today. It was not that long ago, right? And in the course of that journey from Joseph Smith coming out of the woods to where we are today with Brigham Young University and the beautiful city of Salt Lake City, Utah, there was a lot of bloodshed. And Joseph Smith was murdered. Brigham Young fought in another interesting theory that isn't proven, but I believe it holds, is what saved the Mormons. Because in 1857, when you had the Mormon Wars, Brigham Young was fighting President Buchanan, and when the military was coming after him in 1857, and he was holed up and prepared to fight in Salt Lake City, and Buchanan wanted him out. And then right around 1858, 1859, little thing called the Civil War popped off. And the entire focus of the U.S. military was not on Brigham Young and Utah, but it was on fighting the Civil War. The Utah church was able, and Brigham Young was able to grow the Mormon church and survive and thrive. And he was able to politically negotiate, a place in the government so that by the time the Civil War ended, Brigham Young was deeply entrenched and was, able to lead the Mormon church to the great power that it is today. I think if the Civil War hadn't occurred, there would be no Mormonism in the United States.
Wow. That's crazy. What a fortuitous turn of events.
And I'm going to probably get ripped on for that one, but I believe it's supportable.
Yeah, you're going to get ripped for everything.
That's okay.
Whatever. That's just how it is. Mormons are the nicest people. My next door neighbors used to be Mormons. They're the nicest fucking people.
I agree. I completely agree. And
they're so nice. I know a ton of Mormons because I know a bunch of people in Utah.
And Salt Lake City, Utah is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful state. Salt Lake City is a cool city. And I'm down with the Sundance Film Festival, so I'm down with the whole state.
Yeah, no, I love Utah, but it is a fascinating story. It's and it's, look, they have a great sense of humor because the Book of Mormon, when Matt Stone and Trey Parker did that musical, they took out a full-page ad in the playbook. So they're like, if you want to know more about Mormonism, come visit, find out the real thing. So instead of protesting and suing and attacking them, and they just took out a fucking ad.
So when I was
I think that shows incredible character.
For sure.
Because you've seen the Book of Mormon, right?
Yes, I have.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
And pretty brutal. And they're like, if you like to find out more about Mormonism,